Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 562 XP chainsaw. Customer complaint is that it doesn't have any power. Now what we're going to find out at the end of this video is that it doesn't have any power could mean a couple different things. The first thing we notice here is that the gas cap flip top has a hinge pin in it, and it was starting to come out. I had never seen this before. The gas caps on these Huskies have been pretty good. Just had to push the pin in a little bit, and we're all good to go. So a plugged fuel filter or crap in the fuel could explain low power. So we're going to pressure test the fuel line, make sure that's not broken. I'm going to put 10 pounds of pressure on this line, and it holds. So we know that there isn't a hole in the fuel line or a leak in the carburetor. Let's pop the hood and see what's going on underneath. Oh my. She looks like it's run a bit hot. That air filter doesn't look that great either. And look at all the dirt in that intake. Look at all that dirt inside the air filter. Imagine how much dirt is inside the engine. Now I know Husqvarna upgraded the design of this air filter in later models. They have a screw-on type air filter. And I have seen this style suck in a little bit of dirt. But I think this is probably the worst I've ever seen. Now I don't know if this ran with the bail for the air filter disconnected and it just rolled on there loose, or if it actually just sucked all that dirt in around the edges of the two halves of the filter, or where it seals down to the air filter base. I'm not really sure. What I do know is that we're going to get all of that dirt out of there and give it a test run and just see how it feels. Okay, I'm going to stop the video here just for a minute. I just noticed something after I had this whole video completed. I went back and I was reviewing it and noticed that big dent in the top cover. Now this saw took a hit, and I wonder if it knocked that air filter loose and they didn't realize it and ran the saw for a while, and that's why it sucked in so much dirt. Because while I have seen a lot of dirt get past this old style filter system, that was a lot of dirt. So maybe this is something to consider when we talk to the customer about all that dirt ingestion. Before we bother doing that though, let's make sure that the cylinder isn't roached. Now looking in through the spark plug hole, I'm going to be able to see a portion of the exhaust side of the cylinder. I won't be able to see the intake side to see if any of this dirt has affected the condition of the piston. But at this point, you know, we're in one of them situations where if you have to repair it with a piston or a cylinder, or if the bearings are affected, I mean, it's a very expensive repair. And given the fact that there's a completely new design for this saw, it might not be a wise financial choice to repair this saw. So we're going to try and get it going. You know, if you have a sharp chain, you end up with wood chips. If you have a dull chain, you end up with this. Dust and dirt, fine particles that can get into everything. So taking this air box off of here isn't really that big a deal. There is a little suspension strap right there and a pin on that air filter base, and it just locks into that little hook and you can pop it out of there. Then there's two screws that hold that air filter base and the carburetor to the intake runner. We'll pull those screws out. Disconnect our fuel line that goes from the carburetor to the purge valve. Disconnect our fuel line that goes from the purge valve, return back to the tank, and slide the air box out. Now there is a bit of schmutz sitting right inside in front of the throttle plate. Just going to carefully blow that out of there. Now the only thing keeping this air box from separating from the saw is the two kill wires right now. Now before you go attacking this thing with an air hose, there's a little gasket right here. Make sure you're aware of it. Either remove it like I did or put your thumb over it before you start hitting that thing with air pressure. And we're just going to blow out, clean it up, you know. Blow out the outside, blow out the inside. Look at the nastiness in there. Alright, there's our little gasket. We're going to put that back in place. Remember, the customer complained that this saw was low on power. Now you could spend time talking with a customer and trying to get more and more detail, or you could spend your time looking at the equipment and figuring out the problem on your own. And a lot of times, even though the customer does offer very good clues, you know, they can lead you down the wrong track sometimes. Kind of like when they bring in a lawnmower or a rider and they say it won't crank. And you get on it and you turn the key and it cranks just fine. But what they meant by it won't crank is it won't start. Well, that's two very different things, isn't it? So when this customer said it's low on power, I assumed he meant he pulls the trigger, the engine just doesn't have what it takes. And, you know, this dirty air filter could be, could confirm that problem, I guess. Here's a mistake you don't want to make.
Cripes.
There's a spring on this choke lever, and you got to have the spring, I don't remember if it's on the top or on the bottom of the choke lever, but when you push down on the red stop switch, it should be spring loaded. And I just had it bass backwards. Not that big a deal to correct, but it's nice to get it right the first time, you know. There, now it's spring loaded when I push down on the stop button. So we're going to give this thing a test run. Pay particular attention to the chain So the chain rotation wasn't proportionate to the engine speed. And the reason for that is the customer installed the chain alongside the rim drive instead of in the teeth of the rim drive or in the grooves of the rim drive. So the chain's just spinning because of friction, not because it's locked into the sprocket. That would create a situation where the saw is low on power, at least in the customer's eyes. So we'll get this thing squared away and we'll inform the customer about the nastiness in the air filter. So that's all I got for you on the Husqvarna 562 XP low on power condition. Thanks for watching. Later.